What's up, everybody? Welcome to the SGN podcast. I'm your host, Diego Call, and it's time to talk about the EA Play 2019 conference from E3 2019. And I gotta say, this was a conference that I have mixed feelings towards because, it was the opener, and of course, it was shockingly the one that I watched last. 'Cause I didn't watch Nintendo. It was so long, and it was like 2 hours and 57 minutes, and I figured, okay, listen, I'll wait for this one to be last. I already saw the announcement for the Star Wars game. I saw the trailer and all that stuff. I saw the gameplay. I was impressed, and I was like, okay, there's probably not going to be anything else that I was going to be particularly interested in seeing in this thing. In this conference, so I'll watch it later. So I ended up watching it, of course, for the sake of doing this podcast, and it started off really, really well. Now, starting off with Star Wars is usually a good thing because Star Wars, is a great franchise, regardless of what's happened nowadays, how they've ruined the franchise. Not just the prequels, who were pretty fucking bad, but also the later films have just been awful. So disregarding that and disregarding the fact that Battlefront 1 was a failure, Battlefront 2 is just an awful game. Forgetting all about that, this is a single-player game that is canon to the Star Wars universe, and it's developed by Respawn Studios. So I have faith. I have faith in Respawn. They're a great company. They've made some really, really good games in the past. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll give them a chance. And seeing the gameplay, I have to say, I'm very enthusiastic. I like the fact that it's going to be 100% story-driven. I like the fact that it is canon. And most importantly, I like what I've seen so far from the gameplay. Now, I have seen some people complaining that there aren't enough risks or something like that, there isn't enough dismemberment. But let's not forget, this is a Star Wars game. This is a Star Wars game that is, of course, attached to Disney. Now, it's one thing to say, okay, maybe like Deadpool will be very violent if they do make a Deadpool movie that is under the Marvel/Disney banner. Of course, that'll have to be violent because that's what Deadpool is. He is pure violence. But Star Wars is a different story. Yes, there's been people dying, there's been saber battles, there've been explosions, there've been a lot of violence, but it's a lot more family friendly because you see people's arms get cut off, but you don't see blood squirting everywhere. So I didn't expect anything other than what we saw in this trailer in terms of gore and stuff like that. So while I do agree that maybe it has some issues, there are a few things here and there, I guess, like in terms of the colors not looking great, some of the animations being a little bit iffy, but I don't really, and what I'm talking about is like there's a scene at the very, very beginning of it where there's like these little animals, I can't remember what they're called, where they're running up and the animation looks kind of bad, but that's a very, very small thing that has zero effect on how the game is actually going to be, whether it's going to be good or not. So I don't hold that to them. Of course, they might still fix it because it is still alpha footage. It's still like a year more or less until the game comes out, but there are very, very small things there that kind of don't look great. But everything else, I think, looks really, really good. I think the saber fighting looks great, especially in that battle with the new type of enemy that they introduced. I can't remember what they call them, but it's got like a double-edged cattle prod type thing, so it looks pretty cool. And just in general, the gameplay looked great. The graphics look pretty good, and I'm interested to see what they can do here. Because if they can make a good Star Wars game that's canon to the main story, then that could actually make Star Wars, the video game series, more interesting and better, which isn't really difficult, than the actual film series as of right now. So I look forward to this game very, very much. Like, this is by far like my favorite game that they showed for EA Play, which, like I said, doesn't really take much, but still, I'm very excited for this one, and I think you'll probably see this as among my top 5 most anticipated games that we saw at E3, which will be coming out in the next couple of days. Regardless, this game looks really, really good. I like what I'm seeing, and I'm very enthusiastic. Moving forward, the next game they showed was, unfortunately, Apex Legends, which I've played a couple games of, and after I played the first match, I uninstalled it immediately because I didn't like it. Then I figured, you know what, I'll give it one more chance. I reinstalled it, played half a match, uninstalled it immediately because, number one, I don't like Battle Royales. It's just not my cup of tea, and I didn't particularly like the fact that you have to play in a squad of like 3 people no matter what. I didn't like that. I do like the fact that in Fortnite or PUBG, you can play in solo, because that's predominantly how I would like to play if I'm not playing with friends. And for the most part, I won't be playing with friends. So I did play a lot more of Fortnite. Not a fan, to be honest with you guys. And Apex Legends, while the gameplay itself, because it's in first person, and there are some elements there that are a little bit that are kind of interesting with the fact that they're champions and stuff like that, have abilities and stuff. it's still just not my cup of tea. And to be honest with you guys, I have zero intention of playing anything that involves Apex Legends, and I just completely skipped over it until we got to the next game, which was FIFA 20. Now, I'm a big FIFA player. Regardless of how shit the game is, it's still better than PES, which I was very, very disappointed to realize because after like 6 years, no, it was like PES, maybe '09 actually. So yeah, about 10 years since I played PES for the last time on a this gen console. Because of course PS09 was back in the 360 days. So I figured, you know what, fuck it, I'll give it a chance. I downloaded it. I probably played 4 or 5 hours, and the gameplay was shit. The animations were shit. The graphics were pretty good, but the animations weren't great. And just in general, the way things worked, I just didn't like. The menus were an atrocity. And just in general, yeah, I thought it was a pretty fucking shambolic game. So I went back to playing FIFA. And yeah, I'm just a big FIFA fan. You know, not a fan of FIFA, but I'm a fan of football. So if you're a fan of football, much like basketball fans are gonna play 2K, I play FIFA, and I've been playing FIFA since like 1999. No, World Cup '98 was the first FIFA game I think I played. I still own it, still play it every once in a while. So I've been playing FIFA for basically since I was born. I was 4 years old when that game came out. Just to give you an idea. And so yeah, you know, I've been a big fan of the series forever. I think the last really good FIFA game was like FIFA 11, I think it was. And then ever since those days, the career mode has just gone to shit. Pro Clubs has gone to shit. They focus 100% Ultimate Team, which is, of course, predominantly the mode that I play because it's the only mode that is somewhat entertaining with all the new stuff they add to it. They are consistently, week in, week out, putting in new stuff, new SBCs, new modes. Not really modes, but new things to do, I guess you could say. Giving you reasons to play. So they constantly keep it interesting, whereas in career mode, they unfortunately haven't made any improvements really over the past few years. Yes, they added the cutscenes for buying and selling players, but realistically, that just adds to how long a window is, which, of course, buying and selling players is always the most interesting part of a career mode. But with it being so frustrating, have to go through those cutscenes and do all that stuff, it is pretty fucking annoying. So I just find myself not doing it. Or when I do play, I try not to do any acquisitions. And of course, this season I haven't actually done a single career mode, which is strange considering it's always been my favorite mode. But yeah, they talked for the most part about Volta, which is the new basically FIFA Street mode, which I don't know. I'm not particularly interested in it because FIFA Street was fun, but it was fun as its own side thing, and I'm kind of worried this is going to take a lot of the emphasis that would be put on a career mode or the modes that I like, and it's going to be put all into FIFA Street. But it does give the players who unfortunately are huge fans of tricks, who do completely unrealistic things like El Tornado and doing all that shit in the in FUT Champions and all that fucking garbage cheese. Then hopefully they'll spend most of their time in that mode, and they won't be bothering us players that are enjoying FUT Champions, or well, enjoying, I guess you could say, isn't really a thing when you play FUT Champions, but you get the picture. When we're playing FUT Champions, we don't want dumbasses who exploit all the unrealistic issues that the game has, and we want to see somewhat realistic FIFA, somewhat realistic football when we are playing FUT Champions. No bullshit keeper movement, no bullshit, spamming first-time shots with your back to the goal, all that stuff, all that stupid shit needs to be taken out. But unfortunately, they haven't taken out goalkeeper movement, which they confirmed once again here. They also mentioned in some of their notes a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And of course, they're still going to have time finishing, which was another big issue with the game. And those are two things that I really wanted to see removed from the game, but instead they're still going to be there. They're going to be they are going to be nerfed a little bit, but still, it's just something I don't like to see in the game. And it's very disappointing to see that they are still leaving that stuff in there. So yeah, Volta, it looks alright, I guess, if you're into freestyle and street football. But I've never been a fan of that stuff. Like I said, FIFA Street was fun, but just as something to do during the summer when you're not playing the main FIFA series. But I don't know. I'm sure there will be people playing it. But the fact that it seems like you can't play with your friends locally, that really, really, really makes it uninteresting for me. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect anything better than what we saw in NBA Live, so not too excited about that. But, the good thing is they won't be adding any more what's it called? Alex Hunter's story. I can't remember what the journey. They won't be having that anymore because that is complete garbage. I played FIFA 17's version. It was shit. FIFA 18's version was pure garbage. Thankfully, I didn't play FIFA 19 because I had the sense to not give it a chance. And so I have no idea what happened in their journey there, but I'm sure it was fucking garbage, cringy as hell, and just a sad excuse to put in some of the icons that they have in the game and put them in the story mode and just make something like bullshit to where you are forced to leave the club that you actually want to play for and are forced to go to Real Madrid or whatever. I think Real Madrid was in this game. Yeah, that's right. I think the other one, you ended up going to the MLS. That's it. You go to the MLS for some reason. You play in a garbage league, and then you have to go to like Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, or I think it was maybe PSG, one of those teams. But regardless, it was a load of garbage, and I'm glad they took it out. They did talk about some new things like composed finishing, which is supposed to make one-on-ones with the keepers a little bit less frustrating and make it a little bit more in favor of the strikers, which is definitely a welcome. A very welcome addition. We'll see whether or not it works because they have promised this many a time before, and it never really seems to change anything. They have, of course, changed the ability to just chain infinite amounts of skill moves to where it's going to be a little bit more realistic or a little bit more difficult, and there's going to be a lot more chance of error for these skill moves, which is very much appreciated. But once again, we'll see what happens because I have zero faith in EA Sports. Especially the FIFA team. I have no idea about Madden or anything like that because I never play it. NBA Live is a shit game, so judging on those two, on FIFA and NBA Live, I have zero faith in EA Sports. And then, of course, they added the new ball physics, which is going to add some more curve to certain shots. It's going to make the ball move in more realistic ways, whether you're passing, whether you're shooting, whether, of course, the goalkeeper trying to save. So we'll see if this actually makes a major difference. They have claimed it's going to change quite a bit. Once again, one of those things that is probably going to have a very, very small change to the game. It's just kind of like a keyword for them to say, oh, look, we added new ball physics. It's not really going to change all that much because this isn't the first time. I remember like a few years ago, like FIFA 14, I think it was, my brothers to this day roast me because they added the sound of the ball hitting the post, which had been missing since for many a FIFA. And I was excited about that. I was like, oh, look, they added something like that. And I was like, yeah, congratulations. They added something that was in FIFA 07, maybe even earlier than that. So, so I have no faith in them whatsoever. And, of course, they have changed completely the way that you take free kicks and penalties, which is a good thing because free kicks have been just an atrocity for who knows how long now, and penalties are pretty shit as well. So, they were better in FIFA 19 than they were in FIFA 18, where basically if you could just aim it to where you aim to one side and the ball goes underneath the goalkeeper's hip, then it was a guaranteed goal every single time, and you could even shoot it as softly as you wanted. You could barely roll it in. It was guaranteed that you were going to score. So they did kind of improve upon it a little bit in FIFA 19, but they're going more towards like the Euro 2004, FIFA 05 type of mechanic to where you can input the kind of curve you want on the ball, and it's going to be more like a bar, I think is what I was looking like. So it could be good, or it could be really bad, but regardless, I don't score any free kicks as it is right now, so whether or not I score them later doesn't really make a difference to me. I'm just hoping that they do improve it, and hopefully, they will take the steps in the right direction, and take out loot boxes, which is, not loot boxes, but packs, which is, of course, the biggest issue with the game from a actual game philosophy point of view. It doesn't look like they're going to be doing that, or at least they haven't talked about it. Maybe they will talk about it a little bit later on once the game gets a bit closer, but I have very, very strong doubts that at this point they're going to be doing that, which is a shame because nobody likes the pack system, nobody likes the FIFA point system. And if they could just take out FIFA points, then nobody else, I don't think anybody would be upset. Like, as long as they do that, take out the fact that you can pay with real money, then I think that everybody would pretty much be happy with the pack system. Because, of course, it is cheese, the fact that you're pretty much going to get screwed over every single time. But as long as you're spending in-game currency and not real money, I don't really see any issue with it in particular. It would definitely be a step in the right direction. Whether or not it's perfect, I don't know, but it's still definitely a step in the right direction. And that's pretty much it for FIFA. I completely skipped over Madden because I don't give a fuck about Madden. Actually, you know what? No, Apex Legends was later than this. It was a little bit later. So I did skip over Madden, then Apex Legends, so I saved a lot of time there. And then they got into Battlefield 5, which is a game that lately I have been playing a lot. We stream it with my brother pretty often, so if you're interested, I will leave the link in the description down below. It's always a fun time, and I will say, with all the criticism that this game had because of all the political bullshit, I refused to play it at full price. I waited until like a month ago or something like that to buy it, just because the gameplay is actually really, really good. So I was excited to see what they're going to talk about with Battlefield 5 because, of course, they're finally introducing the U.S. and Japan with, of course, the whole Pacific map set, I guess you could say. They did introduce Iwo Jima, so that's good. I think they said that's a new take on a classic map because, of course, Iwo Jima being one of the main battlefields of the war in the Pacific, then you would expect them to be doing it. But I honestly didn't play the old battlefields. I think the first Battlefield I ever played was Battlefield 3. So I don't specifically know what classic maps there are. I don't know much about the Battlefield series in terms of history. So this could be basically a remake of an old map. If so, then cool. If not, then cool anyway because it looks really, really good. And they did, of course, introduce a bunch of other maps that are going to still be in Europe. So there's like one in Greece. There's one, I think they said, there's another one in Provence over in France. And I think they said like there's another 4 or 5 as well. They showed one in Africa. And I can't remember the other ones. But regardless, they showed quite a few. And from the way they look great. The unfortunate thing is that they also introduced Mercury a couple weeks ago. And that's probably the worst map in the game, to be honest. Like, it looks beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful to look at. But the map is fucking garbage. It is fucking garbage. And if they do the same thing with these new maps, then it's going to be a huge disappointment. I would say that the biggest issue with this game is 100% the spawns. Like, the spawns are just an atrocity. Anytime you're spawning, whether it's on your squad mates, which you could expect to be dangerous, or you're spawning on the actual designated spawn points, I had a stroke there, for your team, you're always going to be in grave danger of getting killed as soon as you spawn, which is never a good thing in FPSs, or third-person shooters for that matter, as long as it's a shooting game. You need to have good spawns, and unfortunately Battlefield 5 has atrocious spawns. So they need to fix that. Do I have faith in them doing it? No, I don't think so. But there is good news, which is that they do have, of course, DICE Los Angeles, which is focusing more on some of the smaller modes like Squad Conquest, and they are focusing on some of the smaller maps. So that's a good thing. Whereas full-on DICE over in Europe are doing their best allegedly to make good big maps that are classic Battlefield style. So I'm hoping that they will definitely improve on the spawns. That's the biggest issue. And if they can make some maps that are fun to play on, then I'll be very happy. And of course, the fact they are adding the US and Japan, that's really, really positive. It's taken them long enough, but the fact that they do have it there is definitely a good thing. Then they also mentioned the fact that they're going to have new private games, which is a big plus because forever now people have been having to play on private servers that they basically pay for, whereas now they're going to be going towards more the way that like Halo does, it looks like, and you're going to be able to do your custom matches. I think it's like probably going to be like with Call of Duty as well. And then of course if you want better servers, then it looks like you can actually maybe pay for that type of stuff, which I think is kind of bullshit. But if you're into that type of stuff, like if you're on PC or something, then be my guest. If you want to spend your money, then do your thing. But yeah, private games, it's very important for these type of games, and I am happy to see it come into Battlefield 5. They also introduced some new operations. One is Operation Underground, which is based on Operation Metro from Battlefield 3. So I haven't played any of these. That doesn't really mean much to me, but I'm sure that means something to people that did play Battlefield 3 for more than 10 minutes, because that's pretty much all I played with Battlefield. And then, of course, they did talk. The last thing that they mentioned about is the fact that there will be new levels. So instead of finishing at rank 50, you'll be able to go all the way up to rank 500. And as you go up to I think they call it every milestone rank, so every 50 ranks more or less, then you'll get new dog tags and you'll get a new emblem or a new icon type of thing that you can kind of use to represent the fact that you're grinding the fuck out of the game, which I don't know how much I would want to brag about that, but if you're an avid Battlefield fan who is obsessed with it and your whole goal in life is to get level 500, be my guest, do your thing. For me, it doesn't mean much, but I'll never get to level 500. I'll probably never even get to level 50 if I'm being completely honest with you. So, yeah, it is what it is. But overall, Battlefield looks good. I'm happy with what they showed. And that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about for this, because then they talked about The Sims 4. I haven't played a Sims game since like The Sims 3 all the way back on PS2. I think I actually own the version for Xbox 360 as well, but I played it for like 10 minutes and uninstalled it because the game is just fucking garbage. It's just The Sims, and nobody really actually wants to play The Sims, at least for me. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say when it comes to games. I will say that by far the worst part of this presentation, this conference, whatever you want to call it, was the presenters themselves, because my god, they were fucking cringe as hell. From start to finish, they had garbage presenters. The guy who was doing the FIFA one in particular, he wasn't necessarily as cringe, but I didn't get the feeling that he actually knows what he's talking about. And of course, he did host apparently a recent FUT Champions event, so I guess he maybe does know what he's talking about. But the way he was talking just seemed like he completely didn't. And yeah, I thought it was pretty shit. And of course, the female one that was doing Battlefield was pretty annoying. A lot of times talking over, Gustafsson, who is the lead developer for DICE, a lot of times talking over him, making garbage jokes about their friend. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but Freeman, I think it is. They keep on making jokes about this guy, so I have no idea who Freeman is. Maybe he's like the community manager or something, but kept making jokes about him. So a lot of it was just very, very cringy. A lot of it was just a lot of bullshit, and yeah, I think the presenters were definitely by far the worst part of this conference. But overall, if you look at the games I looked at, and I will take into consideration that Apex Legends was something I don't care about, Madden was something I don't care about, and The Sims was something I don't care about. So 3 out of, I think, the 6 games, I didn't give a fuck about. So that's going to take down the rating a lot. But I won't hold that against them, because I know there's a lot of fans out there that love Madden, and there's a lot of people out there for some reason that like The Sims, even though you can just live in real life instead of playing The Sims, which is boring as fuck. But regardless, and of course Apex Legends, I get it has a relatively big community. It has pretty much died down brutally as of late, but it does have its own community, so there is a fan base there. But it doesn't. This rating, as always, is my opinion. It's my rating. You don't have to agree with it. In fact, I welcome the fact that you don't agree with it. If you don't, then let's discuss it. Let's talk about it and kind of get each other's thoughts out there and see what exactly the middle ground is. So if you're interested, then let me know what you think. But my opinion is, it was definitely not as good as Microsoft's, because Microsoft has some big hits there. Of course, Halo, Gears, etc. They didn't show any gameplay for the most part, but they showed some cool stuff like the new console, the xCloud, and they did talk about some interesting things there. So I think it wasn't as good as Microsoft's, which seemed to be generally considered the best one. It was definitely better than Bethesda's. It was definitely better than Ubisoft's. Well, I don't know about Ubisoft, but I think it's probably on par with Ubisoft. And it was absolutely better than Square Enix for me personally, because I hate JRPGs. So for me, I'm going to have to give it a 6. I think what they showed with Star Wars was really good. What they showed with FIFA was alright. Nothing particularly special. They did have Rio Ferdinand there, so that's always a plus. So I enjoyed that at least. Listen to Rio, who's one of my top favorite players, and he is actually the person I named my cat after. Shout out to Rio. Miss you. And yeah, just in general, it was an okay conference, and I have to give it a 6. Nothing particularly special, but also nothing bad. Like I said, Star Wars looked great. FIFA, they showed Rio, so I was happy about that, and they did talk about some improvements which could potentially improve the game quite a bit. Battlefield 5, what they showed looks great. Whether or not it'll actually feel great when you play remains to be seen, but overall, not a bad conference. Apex Legends, didn't see what it was, so I can't judge it too badly, but it does take it down a little bit. Same thing with The Sims, and of course, same thing with Madden. So a 6 overall, I think, is a pretty decent conference. It's on par with Microsoft, with Ubisoft, who also showed some gameplay. But yeah, they were kind of held back by their presenters being garbage and having a few games there that just, quite frankly, weren't interesting to me in any way whatsoever. But I'm excited about their games, in particular Star Wars and FIFA. And yeah, I will give, of course, Battlefield, which I play regularly. So, of course, I'm excited about seeing that type of stuff. So, that is it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the conference. Was it shit? I don't know. I've seen some people say that it was pretty bad, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because, unfortunately, even though I hate EA, the company, I do play their games quite a bit. So, that could be one of the issues I have. But regardless, thank you so much, guys, for listening. I'll see you in the next episode, which will be me breaking down, each conference, kind of giving you why I think which ones were better than which, and going basically from worst to best, not counting Nintendo, because I'm not going to watch that one because I don't like Nintendo whatsoever. So it will, of course, be probably the worst one. But definitely stay tuned for that episode of the podcast, and I'll see you then. See you guys.